I think this will be very useful information for people to consider, especially during these times where the world is still pretty chaotic in a way globally due to certain particular events that are going on. But we don't have to get into that right now for this video, but what I do want to talk about is a quotation from Neville Goddard that said the following: "The alcoholic is searching for truth. Thirsty, he finds a false spirit in the form of alcohol, while those who will not touch it and criticize those who do haven't even started their search. One day they too will know a hunger which will not be satisfied by bread." Now, it's very important to understand this word bread. I think we can use it to understand the physical world, physical desires or temptations. Basically, bread is a physical substance that we eat, while bread can also mean anything else that you're trying to somehow fulfill through physical means alone. Now, alcoholics aren't the only ones that are suffering in a way. We're talking about any drug use of any kind. We should overcome that, because in the Bible it also stated that there will one day come a thirst upon us, a hunger, and no water and no food will satisfy it other than the hearing of God itself, of His truth, of our unity with Him that we can experience within ourselves. Now, how can we go about that? Because I'm fairly certain you probably know people that are suffering from addiction of some kind, but yet these spiritual truths can also work for them to set themselves free. And we all are addicted to something in some way, one way or the other. I mean, it doesn't have to even be alcohol or drugs. It can also be addicted to food. I mean, it exists. People can be addicted to making money. People can be addicted to sex. I mean, they can be addicted to all kinds of things. Watching movies, watching Netflix all day. I mean, it goes on and on. So what we want to understand here is, even though I use the angle, and as Neville said as well, with alcohol, if you think about it, if you stop and think about what I'm about to share with you on top of this quotation, perhaps it can give you some insight on how to develop and get in tune with God's cosmic soul, because that is ultimately the greatest achievement to realize for yourself while you're here. You can still work on your goals, of course, you can still enjoy things, but we want to do it with a balanced mind and not one that is out of whack, where we're trying to numb ourselves because we don't really like the situation in which we are currently existing, physically speaking. We have to re-establish the connection with God so that then He can guide us through this physical experience of ours towards the best possible goals and activities and achievements that would really mean something to us on a soul level and not just to the ego to show off. So on top of the quotation of Neville Goddard, I wanted to share with you today that addiction can be overcome by calming down the mind through meditation and then analyzing which of the senses seems to agitate you the most and overcome that pull of the senses. Through alcohol and drugs, we generally want to alter both our state of mind and influence our sense experience, but it always leads to misery, for withdrawal comes and both mind and senses are temporarily worse off during that phase. That creates the risk of setting up a spiral where you keep reusing a substance over and over again just to get rid of the additional uncomfortable sensations you experience in both body and mind when you are not using it. If you can keep your mind calm and at peace and bliss, that is beyond what any drug and addiction can effectively give, for it can remain with you without any withdrawal symptoms. If I can control my senses better, I stop finding reasons for using alcohol or drugs to numb myself from some sensation I seemingly dislike in my physical world. These reasons and triggers for using the drug are always tied to either sense perceptions, something you dislike about life and it annoys you perhaps, or it is due to the mind being agitated and not in a state of peace and bliss. So if the mind is full of worry, doubt and anxiety about stuff, it also creates temptation to use drugs all over again. Therefore, if I learn to keep my mind calm, if you do it as well, and you do that in general and not let yourself be dragged all over the place by your senses, In other words, don't let things or people that you become aware of through your senses drag you down or upset or disturb you, because that sets up a spiral of doubts and worries in the mind. Well, then it becomes possible to remain sober. Now, every time temptation to use comes, ask yourself, is this due to my mind not being properly relaxed? Or is it because I am letting some situation, person, or event I perceive through my senses tempt me to use? In either case, don't use and you'll remain free of your addiction. Now, the beautiful part is that when the addiction is gone, you have a lot more time to properly develop and use your mind to achieve earthly things for the time being, while remaining in tune with God through your expanding powers of consciousness. You see, your mind, it will expand greatly as you do spiritual work instead of, using drugs in order to temporarily experience some kind of spirituality itself. You hear this all the time, that people use it in order to feel better or to have some divine experience, perhaps. Now, I'm not going to deny, some drugs can really do that to your consciousness. It numbs certain parts of your brain, etc., causing you to perceive reality in a totally different way, which might at that time be a beautiful experience. But the truth still remains that you are one with God. Your soul is the offspring of God's cosmic soul. Therefore, you are capable of experiencing and seeing such truth, whether you are on drugs or not. So then you take it into your own hands. That's the goal. Because that's what Neville Goddard also was saying in his quotation there. That the alcoholic, you could say any addict, is searching for truth. Thirsty, hungry, whatever it is, what your addiction is, you find a false spirit in that form. But by not touching it, like some people will not touch alcohol or do any of it from the start, from the moment they are born, and then they criticize others who do. Well, he says they haven't started their search. So basically, we have found through these activities a way to feel better. But the only and best and greatest way to feel better is by finding God and being in tune with God. Because that is where you came from. He gave you your life. If you can make that shift inside your consciousness, well, then you'll be able to experience peace and bliss without needing to be addicted to anything. You can take it or leave it. You don't have to go through the withdrawals constantly over and over again, because they get worse and worse, especially for people who are totally addicted to alcohol, drugs, etc. It becomes a very tough battle to face, because your body keeps becoming more and more sick in a way by ingesting and using way too much of the substance in question just to try and feel good. So it destroys yourself from the inside out. Even if your body were to be destroyed, you still go back and merge with cosmic consciousness. But it is more beautiful and valuable to do this all consciously and with a deliberate intent while you're physically here. That is how you become wise, because that is how you gain conscious experience with unity of God, instead of it being theories in your mind. Because for most people, they are only theories, beautiful stories they hear from other teachers. But to have the experience yourself, to be at one with God, that is the ultimate jewel to hold in the hands of your soul.